Alright, so this is our video review for Fear and Loathing, and first of all, this movie was terrible. Um, I'm sorry, I could not stand it. I had a hard time understanding what was going on most of the time, and I just did not like this film at all. What did you think about it, Roshan?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was just really hard to follow. I think it requires like another viewing, and I think it's like meant for a certain audience that I'm not a part of.
Yeah, so this film, as it was said in the beginning, takes place in 1971, which is just after the psychedelic era um, in the United States, which is all about testing out with new drugs and experimenting with that sort of stuff. So I feel like the people that would have enjoyed this movie are the people that kind of lived through that era or experimented with those kind of drugs because they can more relate to that stuff. But for people that are not from that era and personally did not experience through any of those kinds of drugs um, and their effects, I couldn't appreciate that kind of movie as well as somebody else. Um, but there were a couple things that I could understand from a cinematography viewpoint because we've learned in class that I was able to see in the film, and one of them was the color red. That was everywhere in the film, but I couldn't determine whether that was due to the fact that they were in Las Vegas, where it's Sin City, so it's kind of the red lighting represents all the sin and the devilish schemes and all those things, or if it was referring to the drugs because that's kind of the same thing. It's very dark and evil, devilish kind of, if you want to say. So that was one thing I noticed as far as the color scheme and the lighting is concerned. What did you notice anything?
I think there was like a lack of like character development and background to the characters. Like I left the movie and I'm still like, who are these people? Like besides what they're doing, like that's all I know about them. And from the beginning to the end, they still seem like they're the same people. I also like going off the colors. Um, like most of the movie, I felt there was like a lot of different colors going on, and I think going off that psychedelic theme, it's like it's like a big mix of stuff. Like it's confusing, and it's like these guys are doing drugs. Like that's what the movie's about, and I think it fits really well into that mood. And I thought the acting was, I thought it was good for like what the movie was trying to portray and get at. It was pretty funny at times, but not because like the jokes were good or something like that. It's just because like I don't even know what's going on, but it's funny for some reason just because the way they're acting.
Yeah, something else I noticed also was as far as the whole psychedelic theme and trying out of new drugs, something else I noticed was I don't know if maybe this puts into play, but the scene where the cop approaches the main character and he says, "Oh, can I get a kiss?" which was completely weird, and I was not expecting that out of the movie. But I'm guessing maybe that was just the era in which people started experimenting as far as sexuality is concerned, also, because that film was what was it, 88 or something like that, 1988, whereas now it's a lot more accepted. Back then it wasn't as, so I'm thinking that maybe that was the time also where they started experimenting with things like that as well. I don't know, but that's just something that came in my head when I was watching the movie. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean that's like pretty much what I thought. Like I think it's really hard to like talk about a movie that you're not part of when you're not part of the audience that it's intended for. So I mean, I don't even know if I should give it a rating. What do you think?
2 out of 10, maybe less. Yeah, I wasn't a fan of this at all.
I feel like it'd be unfair for me to give it a rating.
Yeah, I mean, the only way to give it actually a rating, I felt it was, like he said earlier, it was fit for a specific audience, and I was not that audience, so I can't really give it a good rating. But somebody that it was fit for probably would give it a higher rating, so I can.
Yeah, like it had a very weird mix on Rotten Tomatoes. Like the critics hated it, but like the audience loved it, and I just think the audience was like,
Yeah, and that could have
like
been.
I don't know who's gonna watch this movie besides someone who does like acid all day or something.
Yeah, yeah. It's probably just because of the audience that watched it, and probably those people lived through that era or lived through the drugs also, or both. So, thanks for watching.